What is the most insensitive thing anyone's ever said to you? The first day I was back at work after my daughter died, I made a stupid mistake. My annoyed coworker said, "Damn, it's a good thing we got your genes out of the gene pool. Jesus Christ, if you didn't attack that guy you are a man of infinite patience. I'm sorry there are people in the world that freaking cruel." I'm imagining the office scene from The Incredibles. I was once rooming with someone who was very proud of how hard they worked. One day, they remarked about how lazy I was because I didn't do anything all day. Which of course was true, except for the 3 days a week I went in to get chemo treatments at a cancer center. Other than that, though, yeah, I just laid around all day. God, surviving is so lazy. Don't you do anything but struggle to exist? And I told my mother I finally had a girlfriend. Her reply was pretty classic. "I recommend you be very cautious of any girl that's interested in you. What do you really have to offer? Not much. Gee, thanks mom. I guess the girl was really just after my kidneys? Yeah, thanks for those faulty genes, mom. Thank God we pulled those genes out of the gene pool." Who told you about this party? Same thing happened to me, twice by different people. Condescendingly said, "What are you doing here?" Once at a bat mitzvah and once at the school gym. At the gym I was with my wrestling team who backed me up and told the guy to frick off basically. Great moment of camaraderie. One of my ex's friends did the same thing to me at a bar a week after we broke up. The friend's boyfriend, however, had no idea we broke up and greeted me like a longtime friend. We partied for a bit like nothing happened lol. I know 100% for certain he was chewed out later that night by his GF because the next time I saw him, 1 week later, he did the same exact "what are you doing here" thing his GF did. Same attitude, inflection, everything. That man is whipped for sure. After I was kicked out of high school I was trying really hard to keep in contact with a specific friend from there. One day I bugged him. And he wrote back, "God, I don't care if you're lonely. It's not my problem, frick off." So I did, and had the 2 best months of my life, before he decided he needed me, came back and begged me to be his friend again. I got to respond, "God, I don't care if you're lonely. It's not my problem, frick off." Maybe a bit petty, but it's still the most satisfying moment of my non-sexual life. Nothing like a good echo burn. It's called a cruel irony, like my dependence on you. My mom died at the end of October. I have this piece of crap coworker who comes in high off his ass all the time and doesn't do anything. The weekend before Thanksgiving, this kid is too high to function at work, so I'm basically running the front of the restaurant. He's blathering to me about nonsense, and if I don't respond he gets pissy. He says, "I'm so excited to go home and see my mom." "Are you gonna go see your mom?" "Oh, wait." And then laughs. I was heartbroken. Frick you, Paul. Frick Paul, I'll fight him. Trust me, I still want to. When I was 9 my best friend passed away from a stroke. I was the one who brought her to the school office and stayed with her as paramedics came to take her to the hospital. She died 4 days later. It was an extremely traumatizing experience and caused a lot of pain and mental health issues. I learned to cope by giving myself 2 days of the year devoted to thinking about her and letting myself feel my emotions fully. Those 2 days are her birthday and the day she died. One day when I was in high school, I think around 15 or 16 years old, I was hanging out with my friends at the local park. We were discussing what we were going to do the next day, and I told them that it was the anniversary of her death and that I might not go to school that day. That's when one of my friends turned to me and said, "What are you gonna do, Mon?" And then she laughed like it was a joke. All I could say to that was, "Yeah, of course." That was the first time I noticed that my friends didn't respect me like they did each other. Oh man, I know how it feels when you realize the people you've been friends with your whole life don't even like you. They just sorta stand you. Tell me about it lol. They just kind of tolerate me and it's not even like I'm really there, just like I'm in the background. After what I thought was pretty good sex, this girl rolled off of me, stared at the ceiling and said I should just become a hooker because I have sex with people I don't respect at all. That relationship did not last very long. Hey, that's another thing we have in common. Too bad it's too late for comebacks since you already came. Are you adopted? I'm a nation female. I was working at a restaurant in college part-time, and one of the white male customers just asked me that with no preamble. Because all Asian girls are adopted out, obviously. I told him I wasn't, after I got over my shock. Like WTFY, would you ask a stranger that? Wish I had some witty comeback at the time. Meanwhile I always get asked, what nationality do you have? And I'll reply German. Mind you, I'm adopted and look like your average Asian girl, so the next question always is, no way, where are your parents from? If I reply Germany to the people just get so weirded out because nobody thought about the possibility that I might be adopted. LMAO. It's gotten better now that I've gotten older, but it's quite funny to see some friends that haven't seen my parents yet totally shocked after they meet up with my totally German blonde mother and father. I like to play totally dumb and stupid though if someone asks stupid questions. My brother had passed away when I was in 7th grade. After not going to school for 2 weeks, my parents decided it was time for me to try to get through school again as to not fall too far behind. My first day back during my 3rd class of the day, some girls started to bully me, and after getting the courage to say something back, a girl yelled at me. Well, at least my brother didn't die. I lost it and ran away from the school crying. God, this one just broke my heart. It pains me that no one stood up, that people actually bullied her. I hope that there are better 7th graders in this world. No, frig 7th graders. People used to tell me when I was a little kid that adopted kids aren't as loved by the parents that adopted them as the kids that were birthed by their actual parents. I laugh at that now, but at the time it hurt because I already had an internal struggle about being adopted. Who the hell says this to a kid? Like, hey, I need to make sure this child knows their parental love is incomplete. I mean, what if they don't know? I'd better inform them. Like, why? Kids say this to other kids. You'll be surprised how cruel children can be when they learn how to talk crap. When I was in high school we were really poor. My mom was a single mom, and I only had one pair of jeans that I wore every day. The jeans had 2 tiny holes from getting caught while climbing a chain link fence. One day in drama, our teacher paired us up with random people to do mini plays. I got partnered with this really cute guy. Not a really popular snotty guy, but a really nice regular guy who was friends with everyone. When we sat down to work on the play, he says to me, "Hey, can I ask you a question? Why do you wear the same pair of pants to school every day?" In total red-faced devastation, I told him, "Because it's the only pair of pants that I own." The look on his face was awful, like reality was crumbling right in front of his eyes. I could tell that he felt horrible for asking, and I felt horrible for stupidly believing that maybe nobody noticed that I was wearing the same pair of jeans every day. When I was writing this, I teared up, even though it was literally 30 years ago. My 12 and 16-year-old boys saw me getting teary, and we had a little conversation about being careful about what you say to people. Then my 12-year started hugging me and crying, which made me cry harder. But then we thought about that poor boy who to this day probably feels horrible for what he said, so then we all started laughing. Hey, insensitive boy from Crescent Heights High, 1983. I forgive you. Who I got a story for you. In my apartment complex, there's this one family that are super rich, bought 2 apartments, and made them one, and a family that barely gets by, and myself. We kids all hang around. So, the girl from the family that gets by always wears the same shirt for the same reason you mentioned. One day, we were talking about clothes, and he asks her, "Why do you wear the same clothes?" And she teared up and said, "It's the only one I got." We kinda got quiet and moved on from there. A month later, it's Christmas and there's an anonymous package for the family that gets by. They get it, and it's a giant box chock full of beautiful clothes for the girl and the whole family. I'm not talking cheap clothes, but Armani, Marks and Spencer, we are in Hong Kong, G2000 and stuff. Melted my heart. Are you going to make your sister's death a national holiday? This was because my sister died at 43, the first significant loss ever in my life. This was the 1-year anniversary of her death, and I knew it would be hard for me, so I requested the day off of work. This was a coworker who could name all of the people she lost, so she bragged, since her brother died at age 14, and she said she knew like 30 people who had died since then. I used to put up with her weird quirks, but from that day on I hated her, and didn't remain friendly with her. It was the 1-year anniversary of the last time I saw my dad alive, before he died suddenly of a stroke. I was visibly off that day at work, and when I told my boss that was why I was upset, he asked, when are you going to stop using your dead dad as an excuse? Some people treat everyone else's distress as manipulation. They think that when you cry you're trying to make them feel bad for you. It's sick, but that's the truth. Nowhere near as bad as some of the others on here, but I'm a nurse. A patient's family member once said to me, "What? So you weren't smart enough to get into med school? Is that why you're just a nurse?" Clearly that person has zero idea of how difficult nursing school is. I know many MDs/DOS who couldn't do what a nurse can. Thank you for all that you do. Your comment made me tear up. It made me think of my mom. My mom is a nurse, and she pushed herself through school when my sisters and I were really young. It's so nice to see people understand what it takes. My mom has come home angry, in tears, has worked her ass off. When I see or hear people talk about how hard nurses work, and thank them for what they do, it makes my heart smile. Thank you for all that you do from me as well. While I was having a panic attack, my now ex said, "Man up. What a bish." First off, she's terrible at that. Second off, it's okay to be that way. It's how we learn and grow stronger. Next time that happens, don't worry about it. Embrace the fact that you're panicking, and work your way from there. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the overcoming of it. Your comment might sound weird to someone who can't relate to it, but I feel like you are absolutely right. In order to take back control over yourself and your situation, you have to first understand what exactly is happening to you. Then you can start to distance yourself from it emotionally, and eventually you'll get your objective view back. The problem is, at first, that you can't even tell how entrenched you are in the negative mindset that prevents you from seeing things how they actually are. Anxiety is a big culprit in this. It forces you to imagine all the possible horrible outcomes of any situation, until you can only experience things that way anymore. Even very good outcomes or things you worked very hard for start to feel like dumb luck, and every bad thing becomes the norm. Self-fulfilling prophecy. It's a vicious cycle. But realizing what's happening, and that it's not real, is a big step in the right direction.